Hello, I am Dawn Stone. And have you wondered why it's so difficult for you to get along with your staff or your coworkers? It may be this little thing called diversity, equity, inclusion, and not really understanding how it applies to each of us in the workplace. So, I want to share with you a little quick video about what I've learned about DEI. So, I've been working for decades with leaders across 8 different industries. I've been everything from an intern to a chief diversity officer in an agency. And what I had to learn in that tenure is that my skills and my strengths can be both helpful and harmful. So, I'm going to talk to you today about some quick tips to help you manage your whole self and also keep your whole self together in the workplace. So, as a mom, speaker, and a teacher, I have some strengths that come into the workplace that for some people can be super overwhelming. I am very strategic. I love winning and doing big things. I am an overachiever, probably with a capital O, which means I don't like losing and I love doing and being my very best. So for some people, that's a bit much because I always seem like I am on. And then as an activator, my personality alone gets people to do things. So either you'll really be activated and want to do the work, or you'll really resent me and hate doing the work with me. Now, competition, I want you to think about what this means for you. Competition is really about wanting to win. So it's not necessarily competition versus a person, it's competition versus yourself. And so when you think about competition in the workplace, some people will see that misplaced passion as something that is super aggressive and really not necessary. And command. I command that people do the work. So while we're at work, I like to get things done. I like to use work time as work time so I can play hard later. And for some of my employees, as well as my team members, they have not really enjoyed that about me. So, what I want you to understand is however you're made up, whatever things you do well and not so well, you're bringing them into the workplace and we welcome it. So, I want you to understand how to reframe. So, if I take all of these things that are both positive and negative to folks, what I can say is, hey, I can quickly spot solutions, right? And I can see patterns and I have a very strong work ethic and I enjoy productivity because I don't like to waste time. And getting things done effectively helps us win. So, I want to share with you some ways that biases, implicit and not implicit, help us understand the workplace and what things we need to do to make our workplaces healthier, happier, and harmonious. So, let's talk about it. You may have heard these terms before, but what I have found over my years is that people will talk about words and not really know what they mean. So the first thing I want us to do is to get common language around what it means to have macro and microaggressions in the workplace. Microaggressions, if you think about it, micro, small, these are subtle, often unintentional actions and words that come off as a little abrasive to some and downright discriminatory to others. It can be seen as hostile or just negative. Okay. Common microaggressions, especially when we talk about women professionals, for example, you're so articulate. Oh, you're so dramatic. Assuming that someone's success is based on the way they look or act when there are so many other things and reasons for us being in certain positions. Now, let's come on the other side of the coin and look at macroaggression. So, macro, higher level, larger. These are more overt ways and intentional actions where people discriminate or show aggression towards people in the workplace. It's in the form of sexual harassment or pay inequities or just people bringing up things that they shouldn't in the workplace. For instance, if you are one who tends to be pretty passionate or a deep feeler and you have tears in your eyes, someone may say, "Hey, you better suck that up. There is no crying in the workplace." Things like that are considered major macroaggressions. So let's go into exploring the biases that literally are based on these micro and macroaggressions. So, an unconscious bias, these are automatic, unintentional stereotypes or judgments that are made about people without even realizing it. I'll give you an example that I still see every single day. Kid you not. I'll go into an establishment, walk past certain people, and they will grab their purses, they'll look, and even some will still cross the aisle or across the street because they see me, because they're taking my physical attributes, my confident walk, as something that is deemed very negative to them or even a sign of violence or a threat. And a lot of that comes from the unconscious biases that we have, where we have conditioning, where people put things into our heads, media, teachers, family, loved ones, and sometimes we put those in our own heads. And those biases play out in the workplace in a way that influence the culture in a very negative way. It influences how you serve people, who you hire, who you fire, who you train, who you like, who you even eat lunch with. So let's go to the conscious bias. These again are along the lines of the macro aggressions. These are explicit and intentional prejudices that you show against people, and you're really aware of what you're doing. So, for instance, you say, "Hey, I don't want no man on my team." That's a conscious bias. You may say, "He just looks a little too blank," filling that blank in based on some physical, spiritual, um, perception of a person, right? And so we see this when we get into the diversities or the differences that we all share. And the thing is, if we were more inviting of our differences, all of these things will go away. Why? Because they're in the workplace. They follow us home, they follow us into our meetings, and they definitely follow us into our cubicles and offices. So here are three of the top biases that are impacting the workplace today that we've seen. And we're going to talk about clear ways that you can help address these in 2025. Affinity bias. That's the bias where we prefer people who are like us. We see this in hiring, we see this in retention and training and promotions. I typically will hire and be more comfortable with someone who's like me in size, feature, attributes, education, income, class, regional biases. Maybe I don't want to hire anyone who is not a native of the space and the places that I've come from. That's affinity bias. Now, the second bias we see a lot of is confirmation bias. And this is where we interpret information that we confirm based on existing beliefs. So if I truly believe that women are the best workers in the world, when I see a woman doing well, I say, "See, I told you." That's confirmation bias. A lot of times we see this in business where we'll make a decision that is what we call evidence based, and our evidence is really we've done this before, right? So, say you have a new employee that has a new innovative way of solving a problem, and they immediately get shut down. It's like, that doesn't work here. That's a confirmation bias because they're only going to confirm and affirm what they know and what they've seen and what they have association with. So let's go to the third one, which we've seen this for centuries: gender bias. This is the assumption about the roles and the competencies of people based on their gender identity and expression. Now we're living in a space where we have multiple generations working together, and all of us have different gender norms, gender expectations, expressions, and identities. And so now we have pronouns. Now we have non binary. We have poly, we have ways of people expressing and being that seeps into a workplace and impacts us in our value system, our belief system, our behaviors, our attitudes, and our actions. So we must be crystal clear that these things are here, even though we may not see them or intentionally realize them, they're present. So now, what can we do about it? Addressing these microaggressions in the workplace looks like this. I'm going to ask you to use I statements. Stop speaking for the team. It is all about you and your experiences, not anyone else's. And realize that people's stories are their stories, not yours. Not yours to tell, not yours to reinterpret, not yours to co op. Okay? Group and organizational responses are necessary. When we are in spaces, ask your leadership or you're the leader, Create safe spaces. Allow policies to be in place because so many people have criminalized diversity, equity, inclusion that people are even afraid to say it. It's like saying beer or religion or politics. It is not that simple because microaggressions come from our actions, our behaviors, our beliefs, our systems of support, care, and just knowledge in general, and knowledge that we don't have. So it's important for us to create these spaces so we can have these real intentional conversations. And then we have to look at the role of allyship in addressing them. If you see someone being wronged in a space, speak up. A bystander in 2025 is so uncool. So let's all jump in and liberate people by allowing them to have voice and agency. And how can we do this? Do some interactive role plays. Put some microaggressions on slips of paper or postcards in a staff meeting and ask everyone to pick one. And then we role play what it looks like and how to fix it. So here are some strategies for creating those inclusive spaces that I just talked about. The safe spaces require all of us. We must actively listen and have empathy. If you didn't catch my first video, go back and watch that because I speak specifically about 3 ways to do that. Celebrate the differences. Have everyone show up as their full selves. That is a mission and a mantra of my organization. And I want to share that with you here today. And share this video with someone else as well. Accountability and inclusivity are a must. No two people are alike, even when they share the same parents and most of their DNA. That includes identical twins. Use evidence-based tools to help you reduce turnover and increase productivity. Evidence-based for you may be just asking questions. How do you feel about this place? What can I do to serve and help you more? What things would you like to see from me? That's a way to create inclusive spaces. Okay? So I want you to think about some bias identification scenarios in your own space. I want you to like, subscribe, follow this channel because I will be doing this consistently twice a week in 2025 because my goal is to reach 1 million people and train each and every one of them on new ways of being more inclusive, more focused, more loving, more kind, more human. All right? I am Dawn Stone. I have spent 30 years doing this work, dealing with these biases, dealing with conflict internally and externally. And I'm now here to share with you the cheat code so you don't have to live in these spaces of unhappiness, doom, and gloom. You now can be free to share, to learn, and to love exponentially. We'll see you next week. Dawn Stone, the conflict chick. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Let me know below what things you are prepared to do in your own organization or family to be more inclusive. Take care. Peace.